In our headlines on this Friday afternoon, June 9th, here in South Korea. Air quality in the eastern parts of the United States remains dangerous as heavy smoke from rampant wildfires in Canada continues to make landfall in American neighborhoods, parks and schools. Meanwhile, South Korea's current account is back in the red for the month of April, posting a deficit of $790 million on the back of greater outbound travel. And over in Argentina, much to the disappointment of football fans here in the country, Team Korea loses to Italy in the semi-final match of the FIFA Under-20 World Cup. In the early hours of this Friday, Korea Standard Time. Findings for April show Korea's current account losing ground to post a monthly deficit just after gaining some ground back in March. Pundits are linking the preliminary data to greater travel overseas. Our Moon Hye-ryun starts us off.
South Korea's current account swung back into the red in April on the back of heightened outbound travel and decreased dividend payments from overseas. Preliminary data released by the Bank of Korea on Friday show that the country's current account recorded a deficit of $790 million in April. This follows a surplus in March, which was the first since December. However, the goods account recorded a surplus of $580 million in April for the first time in 7 months, despite sluggish exports.
We were able to confirm that the goods and services balance, which shows the key trend in the current account balance, has shown improvement since January, and that this trend continued in April.
The goods account logged a deficit of around $1 billion in February and March, and over $7 billion in January. The total value of exports fell on year by nearly 17%, marking 8 months of consecutive decline. Semiconductor exports saw more than a 40% decline on the back of the global economic slowdown, and exports in other major sectors such as electronic goods also saw significant on-year declines. Only auto, ship and machinery exports rose in April, with auto exports jumping by more than 40% amid rising popularity of eco-friendly cars. The service account, which includes earnings and spending on overseas trips and transport, recorded a $1.2 billion deficit. This is nearly $1.6 billion less than April last year, when the service account logged a surplus of $380 million. Increased outbound travel as a result of eased COVID-19 restrictions led to a continued deficit in the travel account of around $500 million, contributing to the service account deficit. The primary income account, responsible for monitoring foreign workers' wages and overseas dividend payments, experienced a deficit of $90 million in April due to a decrease in dividend payments from abroad. Moon Hye-ryun, Arirang News.
Also on the economic front, Korea's chips took center stage during the most recent emergency economic session led by President Yoon Suk-yeol and attended by corporate heavyweights and industry pundits back on Thursday. Our presidential office correspondent Kim Do-yeon reports.
President Yoon Suk-yeol has called for nationwide efforts to protect and boost the country's chip-making competitiveness, saying the competition in the global semiconductor industry is an industrial war. This as he presided over the 17th Emergency Economy meeting with 60 industry insiders, including CEOs, scholars, and government officials on Thursday, strictly focused on the nation's chip export strength.
어찌됐든 이 반도체 전쟁에서 우리가 승리하려면은 민간의 혁신과 정부의 선도적 전략이 동시에 필요합니다. 기업과 투자, 유능한 인재들이 다 모이도록 정부가 이 제도와 제도 설계를 잘 하고 인프라를 잘 만들어야 됩니다.
Semiconductors account for a fifth of South Korea's total exports and take around 55% of its manufacturing investment. South Korean firms have led the industry's market share for the past 20 years, with companies such as Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix especially showing strength in memory chips. However, recently, it's seen hurdles with large markets such as the U.S. creating the CHIPS Act amid Washington's push and pull with Beijing, creating complications for South Korean companies' production lines, while Chinese chip makers slowly catching up with South Korea's market share. That said, President Yoon promised industry players that government support will be there.
President Yoon emphasized that semiconductors are South Koreans' livelihoods, their security, industry, and the economy itself, and called on ministers to get rid of any regulations that get in the way of the companies.
The Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Energy also announced on Thursday that it's looking into injecting more than $1 billion to foster up-and-coming technology in the industry, such as power semiconductors, chips for automobiles, and advanced packaging, among other lucrative investments. In the meantime, this is the second time President Yoon specifically addressed the high-tech industry in an emergency economy meeting after batteries in April. President Yoon, in efforts to re-emphasize, while at the same time motivate the participants, said when he goes abroad for multilateral summits, leaders are looking for one-on-one opportunities with him, all because of the country's technological competitiveness. And that's all thanks to the industry leaders. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, in the province of Gangwon-do earlier on this Friday, President Yoon Suk-yeol pledged to foster the province into a high-tech powerhouse and a tourist hotspot. The remarks were shared at a ceremony marking the launch of Gangwon-do's self-governing status, which goes into effect this coming Sunday. Accordingly, President Yoon announced that archaic regulations that previously hindered regional growth will be rooted out, paving the path to broader, balanced development. Gangwon-do's new status provides the province with various merits, such as a separate account for funding and greater foreign investment, as is the case for Jeju Island and Sejong City. Also, Korea is poised to partake in the Digital Economy Partnership Agreement. According to Seoul's Trade Ministry on this Friday, Korea will join founding countries Chile, New Zealand and Singapore to expand the partnership into a 4-member bloc that seeks to advance digital trade and to hammer out a framework for the broader digital economy. Membership discussions took place in Paris on the margins of the OECD Ministerial Council meeting, and the Trade Ministry here plans to officially join the bloc within this year. At the National Assembly here, ruling and opposition lawmakers have agreed to launch parliamentary hearings regarding Japan's plans to discharge its Fukushima radioactive wastewater into the sea come later this summer. Our political correspondent Han Sung-woo has details.
South Korea's ruling People Power Party and its rival, the Democratic Party of Korea, have agreed to set up a special committee on Japan's plans to discharge radioactive wastewater from the crippled Fukushima nuclear power plant into the Pacific Ocean starting this summer. Details will still have to be ironed out, but the committee will be holding parliamentary hearings that could involve the 21-member team of Korean experts who recently returned from on-site inspections of the power plant's water treatment facilities.
Whom the special committee will consist of will be decided after a corresponding motion is submitted sometime next week during a plenary session and later passed. The members will come from both parties, and following committee-level discussions will also decide when it will conduct its activities.
The parties have also agreed on a parliamentary probe into the National Election Commission, currently mired in a nepotism scandal over allegations of employment favoritism shown towards the children of several senior NEC officials.
There was an urge to delve into everything going on with the Election Commission without any limitations on the scope of the probe. But yes, the recent employment scandal is the one that has come under the most scrutiny.
The investigation will also cover allegations that the NEC came under nearly tens of thousands of hacking attempts by North Korea last year. The commission has been suspected of failing to detect some of those attempts. Han Sung-woo, Arirang News.
In North America, suffocating smoke from over 400 active wildfires raging across Canada continues to hover above American skies, triggering public warnings against outdoor activity given the harmful air quality there. Our Lee Seung-jae has the latest.
For the second straight day, parts of eastern United States have been covered in fine dust and smoke caused by massive wildfires in Canada. the air quality in the country's capital reached dangerous levels, with millions refraining from outdoor activities while stocking up on essential items such as masks. According to the Washington Post on Thursday, Washington, D.C. issued a purple warning, the second worst on the air quality index. A purple warning means conditions are very harmful to the health of all people, regardless of age or if they are suffering from a respiratory illness. The D.C. mayor's office says poor air conditions could get worse and asks people to refrain from going outside as much as possible. It also asked people to wear N95 or KN95 grade masks if they needed to go outdoors. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden on Thursday said in a statement that the devastating wildfires burning in Canada are another stark reminder of the impacts of climate change. He added that millions of Americans are now experiencing the effects of smoke resulting from the devastating wildfires. Biden also said that he held phone talks with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, noting that the U.S. agreed to provide additional support necessary to accelerate firefighting efforts, including in Quebec, where fires in the area are having a direct impact on the U.S. He went on to say that the Environmental Protection Agency is monitoring air quality and providing important updates, adding that he instructed Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg to preemptively manage any impact on air traffic due to deteriorating air quality. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, here in capital Seoul, in the early hours of this Friday, football fans gathered in front of a big screen at Gwanghwamun Sq to cheer on Team Korea as it faced Italy in the semi-final match of the FIFA Under-20 World Cup, currently taking place in Argentina. My colleague Choi Soo-young was among the crowd here.
It was an intense match. South Korea took on Italy for a place in the U20 World Cup final on Friday 6 a.m. Korea time. The Korea Football Association hosted the cheering event at Gwanghwamun Sq with the Seoul government and the official supporters of the U20 national football team, the Red Devils. And despite the early hours, the love and enthusiasm of South Korean football fans for their team. Even though the semi-final kicked off at such an early time, fans didn't hesitate to show up to cheer South Korea's U20 team at the square. The U20 World Cup is held every 2 years, but it was cancelled in 2021 due to COVID-19. The square was filled with excitement for South Korea's second consecutive U20 World Cup semi-final and a dream that they could do better than in 2019 when they lost in the final.
I think we struggled during the first half, but it seems like we'll come back in the second half and win 2-0. I hope we can make history by achieving the first ever World Cup victory for South Korea.
I'm really excited to be here in Seoul. I think the energy in the crowd is really great, and this seems like a really fun way to celebrate soccer, the U20 World Cup.
Italy, boasting their strongest squad, opened the scoring in the first half, but South Korea will all square 9 minutes later thanks to a penalty kick scored by Lee Seung-won. The goal brought fans from their seats, shouting loudly and shaking the square with their celebration. Tension, however, rose as the game went on, Italy having much of the possession. Then, with only 4 minutes remaining, Korean hearts were broken when the Italians took the lead and ultimately won the game 2-1. After the match, most of the fans tried to cheer the young Taeguk Warriors to give them a boost.
It was impressive to see our players. I was so proud and the support from the fans were fervent. Though it is disappointing, there's still the 3rd, 4th place playoff, so I hope they gather their strength again.
Officials said as over 1,000 people gathered, the facilities were well equipped to ensure safety. Although South Korea lost the game, there is no doubt they'll be hopeful for new opportunities that lies ahead of them. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News.
Over in Busan, unmanned combat systems took the spotlight at an annual exhibition that showcases the latest advances in maritime security. Our defense correspondent Kim Hyun-seung files this report from the southern port city.
Looking towards the horizon of South Korea's naval defense, we may be heading into an era where technology takes the helm. Unmanned vanguards in the shape of drones, vessels, and aircraft are poised to take over traditional combat roles. This futuristic vision was showcased front and center at this year's Maritime Defense Industry Exhibition, popularly known as MADEX, held from Wednesday to this Friday.
We're going to see a drastic population decline from 2030. Our Navy will also go through a significant cut in personnel. Given this, there is no choice but to shift toward a future of hybrid warfare, integrating both manned and unmanned operations.
LIJ Next One, South Korea's leading aerospace and defense company, opened the curtains on their high-tech unmanned air, underwater, and surface combatants. These systems allow pilots to remotely steer vessels, aircraft, and vehicles while being tens of kilometers away from the perilous sites of combat. In a direct face-off, Hyundai Heavy Industries and Hanwha Ocean also flaunted their hybrid manned and unmanned combat systems.
We are, for the first time, revealing the hybrid manned-unmanned oceanic forces, including the unmanned command ship, reflecting the Navy's latest needs.
We're currently showcasing an unmanned submarine, which is in the conceptual design phase at Navy headquarters.
These breakthroughs, cultivated from homegrown technology, could potentially revolutionize South Korea's future naval operations. With the Navy project christened Sea Ghost, plans are underway to integrate efficient, power-driven unmanned and artificial intelligence systems into combat strategies. The fleet aims to integrate these high-tech forces into a variety of roles, including patrols, detection and destruction of sea mines, amphibious assaults, and more, as demonstrated on Thursday on the coast of Busan. The Navy's presentation offered a glimpse into the future of maritime combat, with both manned and unmanned craft working together to bring the best in defense capabilities. Reporting from the deck of a South Korean naval ship, this is Kim Hyun-seung, Arirang News, Busan.
Rapid advances in AI technology are reigniting debate over ways to tackle its potential risks without hampering innovation. The question is, as pundits say, how to ensure that AI systems remain helpful as well as honest and, more importantly, harmless. Our business correspondent Irayan reports.
There's no doubt that AI has its positives and can make life easier for us. But some people are really worried about AI technology, including the CEO of the company that made ChatGPT.
If this technology goes wrong, it can go quite wrong. And we want to be vocal about that. We want to work with the government to prevent that from happening.
In April, a music track called Heart on My Sleeve by an artist named Ghostwriter appeared online, but got removed from streaming services right away. The track sounded just like well-known pop stars Drake and The Weeknd, as it was made by an AI tool to combine the voices of the two. This is just one of many examples of the copyright issues of AI-generated works. Microsoft last year also faced a lawsuit over its AI-driven coding assistant GitHub Copilot for violating the rights of the programmers who posted code under open-source licenses on GitHub. Some are also worried about fake news. Last month, a fake image generated by AI was posted on Twitter, a picture of an explosion in the headquarters of the U.S. Department of Defense. This caused a brief dip in the U.S. stock market after it was promptly circulated by other news agencies. After the image was debunked, Bloomberg reported that this event was, quote, possibly the first instance of an AI-generated image moving the market. So where are we in terms of AI measures? South Korea has announced plans to strengthen the hyperscale AI sector, but there are no regulations on AI as of yet. One expert says this is where AI legal ethics come in.
South Korea is also working on establishing what's called AI legal ethics. There are some challenges, though, as they may restrict technological development. That's why last year, ethical principles in AI development, usage, and distribution were set first.
The EU, for instance, has been discussing the world's first ever AI Act since 2021. The act would include the definition of AI, classify risk levels and responses, and the appointment of supervisory authorities. China also revealed its blueprint for AI companies last month, while Washington, following its AI Bill of Rights established last year, is also preparing for detailed guardrails as it kicked off its subcommittee hearing on AI in May. Lee Dae-hyun, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. In France, 4 young children under the age of 3 were wounded on Thursday in a stabbing attack in the Alpine town of Annecy. Among the children were one British and one Dutch national. 2 adults were also wounded. Health officials say that some of the victims required surgery, but that all the children are in a stable condition. A 31-year-old Syrian asylum seeker, suspected of carrying out the attack, was arrested on site after being overpowered by police. The suspect had refugee status in Sweden. He came to France to seek asylum but was unsuccessful. Authorities say he has no criminal background and that a terrorist motive is unlikely. In Sudan, nearly 300 children have been rescued from ongoing crossfire between warring military factions. 200 of the children were below the age of 2. Humanitarian groups said on Thursday that the children and 70 caregivers were evacuated to the city of Wad Madani from the Maygoma orphanage in the capital of Khartoum. They were trapped by fighting between troops from the Sudanese military and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces since mid-April. Since the start of the conflict, over 70 children have died at the state-run orphanage from hunger and illness. The rescue comes after another 97 children were evacuated from Maygoma and other smaller orphanages over the weekend by local activists. The planet could see hotter weather this and next year as the El Niño weather system has begun. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration said on Thursday that the weather phenomenon arrived 1 or 2 months earlier than usual. It's likely to bring drought to Australia, increased rain in the southern United States, and lead to a weakened monsoon season in India. El Niño could continue until next spring, after which its effects are expected to lessen. The group added that there's a 56% chance it will reach strong levels and a 25% chance it will be supersized. Scientists say the weather system may lead to new record-high temperatures in 2024. And finally, the largest ruby ever to go on auction has been sold for a record-breaking $34.8 million. The 55.2 carat ruby went under the hammer on Thursday at the Magnificent Jewels auction held by Sotheby's in New York. Called Estrella de Fura, the stone has been described as the most valuable and important ruby ever to come to market. It was discovered in Mozambique in July last year. The sale beat the previous all-time high set in 2015 when a 25.6 carat stone called the Sunrise Ruby sold for $30.3 million. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. After some heavy rain last night, we're having a bright and hot Friday. Then there will be passing rain in inland areas of Gyeongsang-do provinces with up to 20 millimeters in the forecast. It surely is hotter and sunnier for the central regions, with temperatures hiking to the upper 20s. Seoul sees highs going up about 4 degrees higher this afternoon. Southern inland areas are having highs jumping to near 30 degrees Celsius this afternoon again. Then strong UV rays will beam down with high ozone levels, so those in Gyeongsang-do provinces need to brace for heat, sunshine, and passing rain today. Meanwhile, air quality will be normal to good nationwide all day. We have frequent rain in the forecast this weekend. On Saturday, central regions, Jeollabuk-do and Gyeongsang-puk-do provinces will see rain. The capital area will see rain around lunchtime into the evening. Then on Sunday, there will be scattered rain nationwide. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
On that note, we end our Friday afternoon newscast, but we have our panel session coming your way in a few minutes, so do stay with us. Thank you for now.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Federico Cuello. I am the ambassador of the Dominican Republic in the Republic of Korea. Arirang is the one channel in which ambassadors have a say. Ambassadors' opinions are taken into consideration. Ambassadors can promote what they are doing. I am truly grateful to be asked to speak for Arirang. I hope Arirang continues and diplomat talks continues as well, because really it is the one window in my 6 postings as ambassador I have found to speak about my work and to speak about those issues that are of relevance for the Dominican Republic and for Korea. And I look forward to coming back as many times as possible during the remaining time I have here in Korea, resonating with the world with Arirang.
사랑 표현법을 담은 곡입니다.
동시에 느낄 수 있는 곡인데요.
내 목소리 널 입술
뮤직
춥지 않은가요? 처음 태어난 이별에서 사는 우리 손잡아요.
I'm live.
저를 도와주시는 분들이
저희와 함께 해주시는 세션분들.
아무리 봐도 없지. 펜션 같은데 아니라고 아무도 안 하는 거고.
좋아요.
The musical K-pop has secured 3 Tony Award nominations, including that for Best Original Score, and its music composer and producer is also the first Asian woman to be nominated in this category. Now, despite the musical's early closing on Broadway, Helen Park believes the run itself has opened the door wider to diversity and more. Welcome to Issues and Insiders. Composer Helen Park is the first Asian woman to be tapped for a Tony Award for Best Original Score in the Broadway musical K-pop. For more on this remarkable reality, I have the pleasure of inviting her virtually to the show. Helen, it's great to have you with us.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Right, okay, Helen, let's begin with your response then to the nomination. Where were you when you first heard about securing a Tony nomination for your music in the musical K-pop, and what were your initial feelings?
Well, so I was still in bed, actually. I knew that the nomination was happening, the announcements were going to happen, but I wasn't expecting much. And yeah, I have to admit, my agent called me and I was woken up by the phone call. And yeah, when I heard the news, I was just so overjoyed and also just kind of stunned. So I was just sitting on my bed for like 30 minutes straight, just like nothing, like no tears or anything. I was just like staring in the air for 30 minutes. And yeah, I was just so incredibly, yeah, so like surprised and also like moved, and it's really thrilling.
Right, I'm sure it still feels quite surreal. Helen, was that in any way expected? Did you expect to be nominated?
Well, I did feel like, you know, it was such a labor of love. You know, I worked on the show for 9 years, and there were so many songs that were written and then cut and rewritten. You know, I poured a lot of myself into it. So I definitely felt like maybe I deserve at least a nomination, but then at the same time, the show closed a while ago, so I didn't know what to expect,
right, to
be honest.
But we'll keep our fingers crossed because the results are coming out this coming Sunday. So, Helen, in the meantime, how do you respond to the prefix, the first Asian woman to have secured a Tony Award nomination for Best Original Score? I mean, do you feel the need to go on to make more unparalleled achievements, or are you simply humbled by the acknowledgement? I mean, has the nomination been a burden or a boost for you personally?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of a shock that so late, you know, it's the musical theater and Broadway has been around for so long, and now I'm finally the first Asian woman composer on Broadway. It is kind of a mind-blowing fact, and at the same time, you know, the Tony Award nomination too, the fact that I am the first Asian woman. It is definitely, it's significant. I think it is a testament to the progress we're making in terms of diversity in the arts. And it is so wonderful to achieve this title and this milestone. But to be honest, I didn't really think about that when I was writing the show. My goal was to make a good K-pop show and honor the culture that I grew up loving and grew up being proud of. And yeah, when I focus on that, I got this title that I didn't even think about. And so I'm just really humbled and yeah, grateful for the opportunity to share my story through the form of a Broadway musical.
Right. Helen, what was the inspiration behind the groundbreaking musical K-pop, and what was its journey to Broadway like?
So K-pop, the idea of a K-pop musical actually started in 2014 when Psy's Gangnam Style was a big hit in the world. There was an off-Broadway theater called Ars Nova, and they love to do immersive and innovative shows. And they really wanted to do an immersive show based on the K-pop genre, where people walk through different rooms and experience the story that way. And so we began writing the story and score for the off-Broadway show. And that premiered in 2017 off-Broadway. And it was very well received, and it got picked up to go to Broadway. And so since then, so much has changed, including K-pop becoming such a global phenomenon and mainstream, very well known. And we were also moving from immersive theater to more proscenium, traditional Broadway theater. And so we had to make a lot of changes, and we wrote like 50 to 60 songs, and a lot of them we had to throw out and rewrite. And so it was a lot of, a 9-year-long process, but I enjoyed every moment of the journey. I love K-pop, the genre, and so bringing that to this musical form and to the New York theater scene was really, it was an honor for me.
Right. Helen, the musical itself, K-pop, includes both the Korean as well as the English language. What was the response, that is, to the setup from the audience in Broadway?
Yeah, it was a deliberate choice to use Korean and English lyrics because we really wanted to reflect the authenticity, the authentic experience of a K-pop song. And the response, I was actually at first kind of skeptical. Would people understand, and would people still feel the message of the song? And it really was wonderful to hear some audience members. I remember one Black American audience come to me and tell me that they felt understood, they felt moved, and they felt included. And yeah, that really made me pleasantly surprised and very moved. And that was what we were going for. I think that is the power of K-pop. It's a genre that transcends language and culture. And it was very amazing to see the audience react that way.
Right. Helen, what were some of your priorities as you undertook the daunting task? I say daunting because it was a 9-year project, like you said, of composing and producing the music for the musical K-pop.
It was really a big challenge for me because I really wanted to honor the genre of K-pop, but I knew that that meant I have to recreate the high quality, super polished nature of K-pop. Koreans are, very hardworking, and K-pop, the industry itself is so competitive and it's a high caliber art. And so I really try to up my game in terms of the music production and composition, and really try to capture the details that K-pop is so good at expressing. And so I took that craft pretty seriously. And another thing was that bilingual score, where to place the Korean lyrics and English lyrics, that required a lot of thought and also trial and error. And so, those were the main things that I focused on.
Right, must have been very challenging. Now, this next question, Helen, I'm sure it's going to be a tough one, but is there a song inside the musical that you are particularly fond of?
It's all of the songs are like my babies. I love them all, but if I were to share one song that I'm really proud of and that I'm loving right now it's a song called Mute Bird, and in Korean it's 벙어리 새. I think it encapsulates the feeling of an outsider or a bilingual person who sometimes want to express the emotions and no words come out, you know. And a lot of people, even if they're not bilingual or, you know, a foreigner in a country, they would relate to that feeling of, you know, like this. I think it's similar to the Korean feeling of Han, where you're yearning for something, you want to express, but nothing comes out, and you know that frustration, but also yearning, all of these feelings combined, I think is expressed through the soaring melody. And yeah, I feel like it's very Korean, but also very universal. And so, yeah, I think that song is something that I would recommend people to hear.
Right.
We have a cast album online available.
Right. Helen, I understand your son was particularly fond of this song halfway after seeing the musical last year.
Yeah. It was really, it was such a moving moment for me because Halfway is a song. It is about the experience of being a biracial person. We have a character in the boy band, a fictional boy band called Fate, and the half Korean and half white character sings this song Halfway. And, you know, obviously my son he was 5 at the time when he saw the show, and he had no idea the deep meaning of the song, but he's also half Korean, and after the show he kept singing halfway, halfway, and he told me that that is his favorite song, and a lot of my friends call that song Hapa anthem, and so that made me really proud of that song.
Right, I'm sure. Helen, now, despite its surprise hit off-Broadway in the year 2017, as you mentioned, the musical K-pop struggled at the box office, closing off to, I believe, 17 regular performances in about a fortnight since its opening. Regardless of this early closure, though, what do you believe are the broader, more significant implications of K-pop's debut on Broadway?
Yeah, I think despite the early closure, the significance of our show and the impact it had on Broadway can't be understated. I think it really represents this big step towards more diversification of Broadway, and also, you know, it was a recognition of K-pop as a global phenomenon. And I just think that it is such an important step to open doors for more culture-specific stories and different diverse musical styles on Broadway. And I think that's just going to enrich the experience of the audience. You know, people all over the world come to see Broadway shows, and I think we need more diverse and fresh approaches.
Right, of course. Helen, responding to the planned closure of the musical K-pop last December, in a Playbill guest essay, I believe, you said, and I quote, "Just as we're about to start, the doors are closing on us. I honestly do not know what to make of that." Well, since then, you've been nominated for Best Original Score, and the musical itself has 2 more nominations, I believe, for Best Choreography and Best Costume Design. What do you make of this latest development now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so honored and grateful, and I do think, you know, it's definitely a validation of the hard work and passion and love that all of our cast and creative team put into the show. I could see that this show wasn't just another job. For a lot of us, it was something that we really cared about, and I think that really showed, and the Tony nominators definitely seem to have felt that. And so while the closure was disheartening, I think it really was a testament to the lasting impact that our show had in the theater community. Yeah.
Right. On a personal level, Helen, I understand you initially wanted to write Korean pop music before turning to musical theatre. Could you share with us the reason behind your shift in interest?
Well, I think I think that songs for pop music and musical theater, there's this similarity. What I love about both mediums is that you can, through music, you can step into someone else's experience and emotions. And I think musical theater brings out that effect way more through providing context through story and character development. So I wanted to do musical theater because I think that emotional storytelling is really emphasized and amplified, but also it's an opportunity to explore different genres. You know, it's not just one genre that I have to stick to. I can create a fusion of genres and can make a unique soundscape, unique for that show and story. You know, kind of one of the shows that I love is West Side Story. The music, when you hear it, you think of not a country, but you think of that show and the story. And so I love creating that kind of world where people can just live in. So yeah, I love musical theater, but I still love pop music.
Right, and staying with that, Helen, generally speaking, what would you say is the global appeal of the music genre K-pop?
I think the most significant and what I love the most about K-pop is that it is so inviting. It doesn't discriminate who you are. No one feels less than or unwelcome. And I think it's because it uses the power of elements that are not just lyrics or, you know, literal language where only certain people can understand. I think the combination of music, dance, and, you know, care for the fans, the fandom, the community, it is a whole package. And when you're you know, anybody who wants to belong, there is a place for them. And so, yeah, I love that about K-pop.
Helen, K-musicals have been seeking inroads onto the global stage in recent times. What are your words of advice, perhaps, regarding such ventures?
Yeah, the advice that I give to anybody is that I think we need to not focus too much on like bringing a Korean show, like doing something that is completely different, completely new, and, you know, being the first of something, or, you know, I think creating work for the sake of creating something new or shocking, or, you know, preaching a new ideal, or I think those kind of approaches are very obvious. And so I would say my advice to people seeking to bring a new musical into the Broadway scene is to just write what you love, and if you're really passionate and in love with what you're writing and you're putting out there, that is going to make the show powerful, and the results will come with it.
Right, that sounds beautiful. Helen, this is an impromptu question. While researching about the early closure of the musical K-pop, I came across pundits who claim that the musical theatre itself, the industry itself, is coming across quite some hard times post-pandemic. Do you agree? Are people going in search of live theatre less?
Yeah, I think it's slowly coming back, but yeah, I definitely could see that people were a little hesitant to come back to musical theater. And what I found was that, yeah, a lot of people seem to only wanting to go to familiar shows. You know, it's during the pandemic, a lot of people have become much more you know, comfortable with the streaming services on the TV. And so if you're paying money to go to theater, I think people just think that the safer choices may be better. But yeah, I would love to see audiences going back to more original work and, you know, just like indulge in everything that new theater yeah, new work can offer.
Right, of course. Helen, what do you care to share with those who may be perhaps hoping to walk the professional path that you're currently on?
I think what's really important to remember is that your voice is unique, and if you embrace your unique voice and your perspective, that's what matters. I used to be super self-conscious about the fact that I have so many cultural influences because I moved around a lot throughout my life. And musically, I don't belong to one box or another, or one genre. But if you remember that you being a unique blend of different things and you being different is a good thing, I think you'll realize that your voice is important and the world needs to hear your voice and your stories.
Right, I'm sure that will be great. That is a great message for those who are hoping to walk your path. Well, Helen, thank you so much for making time to be with us live at this hour. And also do take care, I understand, with regard to the air quality there in New York because of the smoke from Canada, right? The forest fires there.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I know. Hopefully it will get better before Sunday when the results of the Tony Award come out. All right, Helen, thank you very much for your time and your thoughts.
Thank you so much.
Right, well, that is all the time we have for this week's editions, that is, of Issues and Insiders. Have a great weekend and do join us again same time next Monday.
Mabuhay!